Patriots for Ukraine. Germany will lead the process of transferring air defense systems to Ukraine. Chancellor Friedrich Merz discussed this with American President Donald Trump. Germany is ready to pay for the installations. Now Berlin and Washington are negotiating the supply of American air defense systems. This was stated in Washington by Defense Minister Boris Pistorius. Before this, American President Donald Trump for the first time announced his readiness to sell weapons to Ukraine and threatened Russia and its allies with tariffs if Putin does not end the war within 50 days. When can we expect the American Patriots? Natalia Fibrig from Berlin.
The idea to purchase and transfer Patriot batteries to Ukraine was discussed by German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius with his American counterpart Pete Hegseth over the phone a few weeks ago. A political agreement could be signed within a matter of days, but not the physical deployment in Ukraine. It will take a few more months to wait. The German minister stated this after a meeting in Washington.
I spoke with Pete Hegseth about this a few weeks ago over the phone, and during our conversation, I suggested that Germany purchase 2 Patriot systems from the Americans and transfer them directly to Ukraine. Simply considering the situation with the supply and maintenance of the Patriot systems, we cannot transfer another one of our own systems. But we are ready to purchase 2 such systems given the urgent need that none of us can ignore, that Ukraine needs more systems.
The financing model is simple. The U.S. provides the equipment and the Europeans pay the bill. Pistorius publicly called on the rest of the NATO members to open their wallets. At the same time, Berlin asked the Pentagon to sell Typhoon launchers, which are capable of launching cruise and ballistic missiles up to 2,000 kilometers. There is no formal agreement yet, but Hegseth called the request interesting and promised to consider it. Trump also considered supplying Ukraine with Tomahawk cruise missiles, which are capable of reaching Moscow and St. Petersburg. But for now, they have been excluded from the supply list. Federal Chancellor Friedrich Merz called Trump's decision an important initiative and assured that Germany will play a key financial role. According to the Chancellor, this will help stop the Russian bombing terror and strengthen the security of Europe itself. While Pistorius was at the Pentagon, in the Oval Office, American President Donald Trump made a sharp turn from his usual rhetoric. In the presence of NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, he announced his readiness to sell weapons to Ukraine and issued an ultimatum to the Kremlin. If Russian aggression does not stop within 50 days, the U.S. will impose 100% secondary tariffs against Russia's trading partners, because talks with the Kremlin dictator mean nothing. And even his wife is now telling the American president about this.
I talked to him a lot to get this done, and I always hang up and say, well, that was a nice call, and then missiles fly at Kiev or another city. And I say, strange. And when this happens 3 or 4 times, you start to think that these conversations mean nothing. My conversations with him are always very pleasant. They seem very nice. And then that night, missiles are launched. I go home and tell the First Lady that I spoke with Volodymyr today. We had a great conversation, and she says, really? And another city has just been shelled.
Volodymyr Zelensky has already thanked the United States and called the decision critically important for saving lives. Last night, the president of Ukraine had a phone conversation with both Donald Trump and NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte.
I am grateful to President Trump for his willingness to support the protection of our people's lives.
Ukraine may receive the first Patriot batteries in a few months. The U.S. is ready to provide the equipment, while Europe will pay the bill. Reporting from Berlin, Natalia Fibrig, TSN 1+1.
50 days is too much for Russia. The European Union has criticized Donald Trump's decision to set an almost 2-month deadline for reaching a peace agreement. The EU's chief diplomat, Kaja Kallas, believes this is too long, since the Kremlin kills innocent civilians every day. At the same time, the official positively noted Trump's new firm stance on Russia. Kallas also reported that Brussels is finalizing the adoption of the 18th package of sanctions. It is aimed at Moscow's revenues from energy, banking, and the military industry. The new list of restrictions proposes to lower the price of Russian oil by 15%.
We truly welcome the news from the United States that they will provide Ukraine with weapons so it can defend itself. Of course, we also hope to reach a political agreement on the 18th package of sanctions. We are very, very close. I hope it will happen today. We are working on the oil price cap. This issue is still alive, so hopefully we will reach an agreement. As I already said, even if the Americans don't support it, but the other G7 countries do, we will still move forward.
Flexible restrictions on the price of Russian oil. European Union countries have finally come close to agreeing on the 18th package of sanctions against Russia. Earlier, the European Commission proposed to make the mechanism for capping Russian oil prices flexible and to set it at 15% below the average market price for crude oil over the previous 3 months. The adoption of these restrictions must be unanimous. Slovakia, which had been blocking the new sanctions, is ready to give its consent if the EU can mitigate the effects of the proposed ban on Russian gas. However, Malta has unexpectedly become an obstacle on the path to new restrictions. It is dissatisfied specifically with the price cap on Russian oil, since its own economy relies heavily on maritime shipping. Today, discussions on the package are ongoing. It could be approved as soon as tomorrow at the meeting of foreign ministers in Brussels. Germany does not have any additional Patriot systems for Ukraine. This was stated by Defense Minister Boris Pistorius in an interview with the Financial Times. According to the official, they themselves have only 6 out of 12 such air defense systems left. 3 had already been transferred to Ukraine earlier, 2 were leased to Poland, and 1 more was unavailable due to maintenance or training. That is why, Pistorius says, he intends to meet today with U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, and with him, the German Defense Minister plans to discuss a proposal to purchase 2 Patriot systems for Ukraine. The German government also stated that discussions are underway in Europe about purchasing more than 3 such air defense systems from Washington. The Wall Street Journal reported that, in total, Kiev has already received at least 7 Patriot systems from its allies. Donald Trump's special envoy has arrived in Ukraine. Keith Kellogg arrived in Kiev by train. Under Yermak published footage of the meeting at the train station, Kellogg plans to stay in Ukraine for 7 days. During this time, he is expected to discuss with Ukrainian officials topics such as defense, strengthening security, weapons, sanctions, and the protection of people. He will also address the enhancement of cooperation between Ukraine and the United States of America. In addition, it is known that the president is arranging meetings for Kellogg with the heads of intelligence and the security service of Ukraine. At these meetings, Zelensky says they will discuss not only the front line, but also Ukraine's next steps, including how to repel Russian attacks.
Announcer, there were explosions and smoke last night in Russia as well. Several regions of the terrorist country were attacked by drones. Residents of Voronezh, Rostov, and Lipetsk regions complained about the loud night. In total, the occupiers' Ministry of Defense counted 55 drones. As always, they claim to have shot them all down. But footage from social media shows black smoke rising in the city of Ilyets near the Energia battery plant. At this facility, the enemy manufactures parts and batteries for drones and missiles that attack peaceful Ukrainian cities. So this is not the first time it has become a target.